Hey, I dropped by my first ColossusCon last week, as it was taking place in Austin, which is where I moved to a few months ago. It's a fairly new con, or at least con location, but it's an extension of a larger ColossusCon brand that has multiple locations to my knowledge, all taking place at the gorgeous Kalahari Resorts. The day before the con, I scoped out the place with Gnarly, a Megaton YouTuber that I've met through making my Persona 4 series, and I was frankly stunned by the size of the place. Rock climbing walls, a roller coaster, multiple excellent restaurants and bars, an indoor bowling alley, sweet shop, pizzeria, spa, an outdoor and indoor water park, multiple unique drink menus that are all based around different anime. I mean, the list goes on, but having gotten my badge early with pre-registration, I came back the next day to check it out for real. ColossusCon Texas, especially outside of Austin and Round Rock, is set in an amazing convention venue. There's so much space and so many rooms, but so much of the con took place in a dinky fraction of the total resort. The people as well. Well, on Saturday at least, were quite a few people, I guess. The total people there were pretty vacant for how big the resort was, and so I couldn't stop thinking of how awesome this con would have been, or how awesome a con in one of these resorts could be, thinking back to Anime Expo 2022, which is an all-time best weekend ever experience. I think the flux and normalization of anime hasn't quite reached the aesthetic of cons, nor have many of the cons evolved with the times to get the word out. I mean, I only knew about this con that was happening within an hour's drive of me because someone I met at Anime Expo, Gnarly, told me about it. And I'm living in Austin now, so even if I end up screaming into the void, let me cover some things that I think would undeniably grow any B or C tier con that's trying to hit it big. The first thing, and I don't want to seem like a whiny baby, but press exists for a reason. You want people to cover your event, but more so, you want people with followings to attend your event. There is an endless line of streamers, VTubers, YouTubers of plenty big followings living in Austin. Texas in general is becoming a hub for content creators all across the board, and yet, when I was at ColossusCon all 3 days, I never saw a single press badge. That goes for myself as well, as I signed up to do press myself, and in their words, despite meeting all their requirements, I didn't provide enough coverage in the past to warrant press. Now, they could have told me what they wanted to cover, or what needs to be done if I'm given press, but instead, not only did they require a press history in order to apply for a badge, but also enough coverage of how they consider it to be, which is a flawed idea, and I'll explain why. Nobody cares about your con, or your thing in general that you're trying to do. They care about the people they follow already. In that same sense, if they care about similar things to the people they follow, the same sort of things the person with press finds interesting is likely to interest them as well. It's more organic, more authentic, and has better odds at convincing people to come by because of that, because you're actually showing people what they like. There's no point in me talking about a Dragon Ball booth in some sort of press coverage video, because I don't care about Dragon Ball and I've never made content about Dragon Ball. It is extremely unlikely a noticeable portion of people who have found out about the con through me would care about that either, even when Dragon Ball's one of the biggest anime things ever to exist. But if I have a channel dedicated to Persona content, per se, and I upload a video talking about this awesome Persona event at a con, regardless of how many people see the video, the people who do see it will be infinitely more engaged and convinced to do the awesome thing themselves. Another thing is cost. Entrance to a con cost is essentially to cover overall expenses of the con, but with something like the Kalahari, with countless resorts and bars around, any person spending the night or extended periods is likely to spend hundreds of dollars between foods, drinks, and of course the lodging the days that they are there. The more people filtering through the dealer's alley, artist alley, and more, the more purchases and likelihood of the dealers and artists will tell their friends that, hey, I made good sales, and then they come again and they bring their friends who are also artists. It grows the registration roster. It's an exponential sort of thing, like a dating app with no people on it. It doesn't matter how well designed your app is if you don't incentivize people to come. So number one priority is to get the word out, and number one way to do that is to appeal to people with audiences. One free ticket that still buys things at the con, or even better, a free ticket that convinces more people to pay to enter, is a positive thing business-wise, and there's no other way to cut it. Signing up with my channel of 200,000 subscribers, thank you all so dearly. Thank you for liking and commenting, I appreciate you. Evanito's channel with hundreds of daily concurrent viewers and over 50k followers, and Yarly's channel of over 100k subscribers. Surely, if you offered free tickets to 50 or 60 creators ahead of time, and as a part of the deal made them promote it, they could operate essentially as unpaid guests, and when word spreads that everyone is going to this one con, it makes this whole thing more appealing to dealers' hall registers, artist alley booths, bigger brand sponsors, and of course, more people as a whole. ColossusCon could have easily held 5 times the people and had just as much an increase in Artist Alley and Dealers Hall representation if they really pushed for it. And I mean, the guest area wasn't anything to squander at necessarily. I got Erica Lindbeck's signature on my base P5 copy, and she's the voice of Futaba, which was wonderful for me, but even more proper guests would be willing to go if they knew that people would be there to see them and make it worth their time. Maybe even industry people, if it gets big enough. That's the first, in my mind, biggest thing that they could have done to launch these cons to a bigger and broader appeal. People go to big cons because of reputation, industry ties, size, and legacy. If you don't have any of that, the best way to start building towards it is to work on size first. And the best way to work on size is to do this first thing I mentioned. The second thing, which I think does have a sort of old fandom appeal to it that I ultimately think is not good for cons, is art style and promotional art. In order to appeal to a great order of anime fans, things have to look classy, clean, cool, and mature for both younger and older fans. Again, Anime Expo's 2022 badge looks sleek and sexy. The art promoting it looks cool and professional, giving movie anime vibes and high production feelings. Obviously, this isn't the only way to take this sort of look or aesthetic, but looking at some other big cons, like, and please forgive me, Otakon was gracious enough to give me a press pass last year, and it's one of the biggest cons in the US, but if you compare the brand and marketing art to AX, that's not even the same competition. At its best, looks dated. The art itself is not bad by any degree. The art or artists themselves are incredibly talented. But if you want to hit the big stage, you have to convince everyone that you're already on the big stage. Make anime look cool, and make it look like something recognizable. If we go to this year's ColossusCon art, which is very anime-esque, I would nearly guarantee that if you took the top 400 most watched anime, none of them would look like that. And that's a good thing to consider. What aesthetics in the current day are popular, what's getting people's attention. Because that's the whole point of this promotional stuff, right? You don't want to rip off a specific art style. I mean, if I saw a con make OC characters in a noticeably singular Demon Slayer style, it would come across as a knockoff, which culturally is associated with cheap even without us consciously thinking of it. So I'm not saying copy an exact style, but make something that could fit in with most popular and buzzed about anime. Something clean, classy, and inviting. And a lot of cons don't do this. Now, I don't know what the going commission rate for a convention promotional artist is. It probably isn't enough money, but Twitter exists, and there are plenty of artists who could live up to the task of this sort of anime look. I mean, look at the countless VTubers coming out who accomplish the exact same thing, and I'm sure that the headlining artist of a con would be an enticing thing for an artist to put on their work history and portfolio, too. I mean, granted, most artists I follow do not speak English as their first language, but there's still tons of great examples who do. Scott Mallon, for one, has a very Trigger-esque art style that hits that balance of clean-looking professional like an anime that exists and yet unique enough to be its own thing. I also think artists like Cravat would be up to the challenge. Having a welcoming, exciting brand to promote alongside goes a long way in convincing people something is worth their time. So it's really best for bigger cons especially to transition into putting more of their budget into paying independent artists that can fully hit that wide net appeal while still reminding people what makes anime cool. A third thing I think should be done is having more things like the 18+ lounge and explicitly 21 and up parties. I'll be honest, now that I'm an adult, the idea of me complimenting or hitting it off with someone just for them to be underage is such a cripplingly cringe feeling in my soul that it leads to me just barely talking to any new people at all who I don't already know the extensions of through other content creators. Creating a space that guarantees who you are talking to are adults immediately opens me up to socialization, and I've talked to countless other people in my same shoes that feel the exact same way. The adults coming to the cons are the people with the big money buying things anyways. It's good to give them something other than some same dusty 18+ hentai panel that only really appeals to new adults if... well, actually, I don't know who those are supposed to appeal to. Have a cool lounge, open a bar, have some music, similar to the 21 and up lounge at, again, Anime Expo, and people will pour into it. Better yet, throw parties for these exclusive age ranges. I know that when I went to the Persona party, it felt like I could go up and talk to anyone and everyone. Everyone was so happy and excited to be there, in a great mood, willing to dance and chat without a care all night long. In business terms, facilitating better incentives for older con attendees assures that less people feel like they have aged out of going to cons as they get older. The culture has been changing for years. Once upon a time, before my time, in fact, video games were seen as a loser hobby or potentially dangerous. Now, they are a normally accepted part of most Americans' conception of an adult. Comic books used to be the same way, even more so, and now Marvel is the most popular mainstream thing in the entire world. Anime is like that too. We are past the age where people think anime is only teenagers punching each other or sexual promiscuity. There's a worldwide acknowledgement that has been building and recognizing the art that comes out of anime for what it is, and this change in cultural acceptance necessarily means cons must mimic and push this forward. And best yet, it benefits everyone involved. Those are just some things that I thought up walking around ColossusCon this last weekend, and I do sincerely hope some con, somewhere, starts looking at places like Anime Expo and taking note on how to grow their cons as well. More fun for everyone involved. See ya. I hope you liked this sort of video. It's kind of new to what I have ever done in the past, but also a little bit old in a sense. I tried integrating some of the more high-quality editing and also the money that I spent on paying for artists to try to give this a higher-level feeling, while also managing to keep a more direct lifeline talking to you guys, rather than talking purely through abstraction in my videos. So tell me what you think, if doing more kind of story time or thought piece type of videos with seems up your alley, and I of course still plan to do these more high concept videos that I did for my last two videos. Thank you for my patrons, Daniel Frousing, My Name is Klein, AaronBoy97, Simon Price, Frillneck Lizard, Icarus, Yuki, Yongsuk Chong, and I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you everyone who has supported me. The increased patron support is basically all that's allowing me to keep living right now. And I'll see you sooner than last time.